In the Game of Thrones Season 6 finale, King Tommen Baratheon committed suicide, but there were other factors at play besides his wife's sudden death. Until Dean Charles Chapman was cast in the role of Tommen for Season 4, Callum Morey played the youngest son of Cersei Lannister. Soon after, Tommen became the apparent heir to the Iron Throne, but the strains of his family and the surrounding rivalry among the Westerosi powers eventually caught up with the young king. Tommen was more prominent in Game of Thrones Season 4 after first making an appearance in a supporting role. Tommen, like his siblings, was a secret offspring of Cersei and Jaime Lannister, her identical twin brother. He attended both Joffrey and Margaery Tyrell's wedding ceremony as well as his older brother's funeral after he passed away. Tommen was chosen as the new Lord of the Seven Kingdoms despite his inexperience and naivety. Margaery turned her attention to Tommen to rebalance the dominant families after Joffrey's passing. When Cersei became envious of Margaery's influence over her son and granted the High Sparrow more authority, their soon-to-be-married union quickly descended into conflict. Cersei's attempt to keep her son with the Tyrells failed after the Faith militant detained Margaery and her brother Loras. As a result, Cersei was captured and forced to perform the Atonement Walk. Tommen was gradually brainwashed by the High Sparrow and his group of followers. Cersei was scheduled to be tried for her crimes despite the elimination of trial by combat. Cersei planned a wildfire explosion at the Great Sept, which resulted in thousands of deaths, including Margaery, just as the trials were about to start. Tommen removed his crown after witnessing the tragic event and walked out of his bedroom window to end his life. Although Tommen's suicide was influenced by Margaery's passing, his mother's deeds were a more significant factor. Tommen Baratheon was no longer able to manage his family. In many ways, Tommen's suicide seemed destined to happen. Tommen was manipulated in some way by almost everyone he came into contact with in Game of Thrones. When he was weak, Margaery seduced him while his mother also attempted to control him. Even the High Sparrow was aware of the young man's potential to advance the faith of the Seven. The loss of Margaery undoubtedly caused a great deal of sorrow, but it was overshadowed by the trauma of being a Lannister child. After the passing of his alleged father, Robert Baratheon, Tommen had recently lost both of his only siblings. Tommen could not comprehend how his mother could have known that she had killed the woman he loved and thousands of other innocents in King's Landing. The young king believed he had no choice but to commit suicide after realizing that his newly discovered faith was a lie and that he had no one left to turn to. Of all the deaths in Game of Thrones, it was undoubtedly one of the most abrupt. Tommen's passing fulfilled Cersei's tragic prophecy in the television series. Tommen's passing fulfilled a foreboding prophecy that was featured in Game of Thrones Season 5. A flashback is shown in the Season 5 opener, The Wars to Come, where Cersei asks a witch by the name of Maggie the Frog for assistance. After making the woman predict her future, the witch spins her a terrifying tale that ultimately shapes Cersei's past and prophecy. "You will reign as queen for a while," she says, "until another, younger, more attractive person comes along and knocks you off your feet and takes everything you value." Afterward, Maggie continued, "The king will have 20, while you will have 3. Their shrouds and crowns will both be made of gold." Cersei Lannister only values her children and life, so if something is taken away from them, it will be her kids. In an effort to exact revenge on Oberyn Martell, Michella and Joffrey both die from poison, and Tommen later commits suicide. Ultimately, the prophecy is fulfilled by the deaths of all 3 of her and Jaime's children, and their shrouds are golden. Maggie the Frog also foresees that Jaime might be the one to murder Cersei in the future in the Game of Thrones books, but this prediction is never fulfilled. In the end, Tommen's suicide fulfilled this prophecy, and in incredibly distressing circumstances consistent with the mood of Game of Thrones. Tommen's death was never forgotten because of the cinematography. Miguel Sapochnik, who also directed 3 other Game of Thrones episodes, handled the scene where Tommen commits suicide in an unforgettable way in Game of Thrones Season 6, Episode 10, The Winds of Winter. Tommen is informed of Margaery's passing as he sits in his quarters and watches Cersei destroy the Red Keep from a distance. The shot shows Tommen facing the window with his back to the camera as a staff member apologizes and says, "Your Grace, I'm very sorry." Tommen briefly steps off screen to take off his crown, but the shot remains unchanged as the attendant departs. The camera had been focusing on the window the entire time as he returned to it. Tommen walks calmly out the window to end his life as the young king advances without saying anything. Game of Thrones fans won't quickly forget this elegantly performed scene. It had only been a few moments since the Red Keep had been destroyed, which was a wildly dramatic scene in which a significant character died. In order to contrast the previous scene and contrast a peaceful death with a dramatic one, Tommen's suicide scene is a somber one. Even with its understated nature, the Game of Thrones audience was horrified to watch Tommen commit suicide. But this isn't why Tommen's suicide still lingers as a memory. It's Sapochnik's masterful delivery of this moment to audiences that makes it so. As the last of Cersei's children die, and she is crowned Queen of the Seven Kingdoms. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe and support my channel.